everyone, I'm Jan from Jannplansthings and welcome to my very first bullet journal setup video. I hope you guys find this interesting. So let's get started. I do everything in my LT 1917 notebook. So my useful items are my Sakura Microns in 0.1 and 0.8, the jelly roll for white, the Tombow Fudenosuke, mechanical pencil, a razor, and of course a ruler. That's my general kit. Sometimes I don't use all those things, but I'm going to take these off now so we can get started on the layout. I'm currently doing a floral theme for June. So the pencil I'm using is a Kuru Toga pencil. It's by Uni, and I like it because it was pretty affordable. And also it has this really cool little mechanical thing in it that rotates as you draw, which means that all of the lead always stays as sharp as possible. I'm drawing peonies here in the top right hand corner, as you can see, and I find that the basic shape for a peony is like a donut. So I start with drawing an inner circle to do the bulb in the center, and then the outer ring. So I'm going to do that again over here. So I've done the center, and then I'm just going to fill that in with the petals, and then I'm going to go around on the outside and add those extra petals as well. And I always kind of just roughly sketch this in with pencil first before I ink it in, just in case I change the layout. I actually made a mistake here. I realized I'd drawn everything a little bit too high, but it didn't really matter, so I was just gonna run with it in the end. I've also decided to draw a couple of bulbs and a few anemones so that you guys can see how I draw a variety of flowers. So you can see here, anemone's a bit easier because I like the flowers that you kind of draw when you're a kid. Just like with the center and then the petals around, and then you just fill in the edges as well. So this is just, there's another one there. Now after I do the pencil, I try to start inking. I would use the 0.1 to start inking. This time around I did the letters first because I wanted them to be white and stand out, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't accidentally draw over them. Sorry about the lighting change there. I had dinner and then everything went a bit dark. So here you can see I'm doing the center bulb first. It's a bit clearer to see now. And then I draw the petals on the outside. Add those little V shapes on the tops of the petals, and it makes it look a little bit more detailed when you're filling in. And then I go from the center of the flower and do a few quick little ticks in order to give that little detail and depth to the petals. I like doing it this way because it looks good in black and white, and if I wanted to, I could color it in with watercolor pretty easily, and the details retained in the actual line work instead of in the watercolor. So it saves me a lot of time in the long run. So you can see I did a couple of the anemones first after doing the peonies, and I start by doing the center, and then I kind of just like wiggle as I go around because the petals, I don't want them to look perfect, because if they look too perfect it doesn't look as natural as a flower. And then I go through and then I just fill in a few of the leaves, and sometimes I change the position of where I did the pencil work because I realize as it's darker that it's not in the right position or it's not as detailed as I wanted, so I can just fix that up as I go with the pen. Now I've just switched over to the 0.8 because I find that if you outline everything in the 0.8 after doing the 0.1, everything just stands out a lot more. So this is one of my favorite techniques to make my drawings really pop, especially this type of thing. I think I picked it up when looking at a whole bunch of floral tattoos on Pinterest, and I noticed that a lot of them did the thicker line around the edges of the flowers, because in art school they teach you, hey, you don't have a thick line around your face, but I find that when you're doing like this illustrative style, it looks pretty nice and it just makes your drawing pop a little more. And because you've already done the details in 0.1, it adds a little bit of extra dimension to your drawing. And what I'm doing here is I'm just dotting in the big black splodges. I call them splodges, literally I just like scribble circles until I get those. And this is the jelly pen. The jelly pen is interesting because it goes on pale and then it gets brighter as it dries. I also realized here I screwed up and said there were 31 days in June, which there really isn't, as most of you would know. Okay, so now I've kind of decided to show you guys how I would watercolor this as well. I've got a more detailed watercolor video coming up. This one though is a bit different because I'm using different colors. So I wetted that first with just water, and then I just placed a little bit of the pink at the bottom and the yellow at the top, and they bleed in together. Now when you're watercoloring on the LT, because the paper's so thin, it doesn't work the same way as you would if you were watercoloring on watercolor paper, because you can't do wet on wet as much as you would in that case, because like the paper would buckle and it'll pull on one spot. So you see me sometimes going back with my brush and picking up the excess paint so that it doesn't dry in a little rivet of buckled paper. But what I am doing is I'm just filling in the leaves and then going back in with a little bit more pigment and just dabbing it in, and that creates the blending by itself. And the other thing is you have to be aware that some colors are lighter than others. Like for example, but not lighter as in the color, the tone is lighter. It means that it's actually chemically lighter. So if you look at the yellow, when I place it, it's so strong that it pushes out the other colors. So I'm not too worried about putting the yellow on last, because it somehow like just makes, it just pushes the other colors aside. So it really, really stands out. So you can see here, all I'm doing is I'm just going through and then just dabbing a little bit of darkened ink, just to make sure that it just to make it stand out a bit. And I go over and I do it a few times, because I find that as the watercolor dries, most of the time it's not the color that you think. So after that, I used all the colors that I already had and I mixed it in with a little bit of blue, just to create this green color. And then a little bit more pink as well on the leaf, so that it kind of ties all the tones in together. At this point, I was okay with it, except I found that the letters didn't really stand out. So I've gone through with a grey purple colour and just filled in the back of the flowers so that it looks like it stands out a little bit more. And I actually really like that. I've never done that before, but I thought it was pretty effective in this case. And to make it stand out even further, I just darkened the shadows around the letters. Anyway, I hope you found that helpful, and I hope to see you guys again in my next video. Thanks a lot. Bye.